All right, what's up? Early in the morning, just got to the spot. I'm gonna take a couple test pans and see which pit I want to work in today. I'm gonna run the highbanker today, so I'll show you where I'm gonna be test panning and see which side I'm gonna work on. All right, so coming through here, you can tell that somebody else started working over here. So I might take a couple test pans from in there, see what it looks like over there. If not, my two pits are over here. Over here, this is where I left off last time. This is my tailings pile right here. So I'm gonna test here, see what that looks like. And then I might come over here, test this side. Just see where the best gold is and start running. All right, catch you back in a bit. All right, so this is one of my test pans. I wanted to give you an idea of kind of what my test pans look like, what I want them to look like before I start running. Kind of like that. Now, there's 4 decent little kind of pokers in there, and then some fines over here. It's not great if you were just painting. You wouldn't get a whole lot at the end of the day, but considering I'm high banking, I'm going to move a lot of material. So I'll show you kind of at the end of the day what a test pan like that looks like when you run all day, when you run it all through a high banker. So I've got some prep work to do to the area that I'm going to work. I was working over here. This is all tailings. This is all tailings I'm standing on. And my best gold was right in here. So now I'm just following it this way. But quite a bit of work to do first. I got to clear out all these big rocks. A little bit closer to the water. So I got to do a little bit better of a holding pond, settling pond for the high banker, which kind of sucks. I might try to run it over this way. Give me a little more room. But unfortunately, it's going to take quite a bit of work to get this area ready to mine. So see what it looks like now and what it's going to look like when I'm ready to run. All right, catch you back. All right, so one thing before I get started, I figured I'd mention, prepping the ground when you're high banking is pretty important. It'll save you a lot of headache throughout the day. Your area will be good and ready, and you won't have to stop and move rocks as much. You still have to, but not as much as you would if you didn't do any prep work. Also, it's important to plan where your tailings are going to go. You don't want your tailings to spill over on anything that you're going to be working later, or straight back into the river here where I'm at. It's got to dump into a settling pond first. So as I'm looking at the area, I decided I think I'm going to set my high banker up this way instead of downhill. Normally I like to set it up downhill so I can set it up lower so it's easier to dump into. But I think if I set it up going this way, I'll be able to dig out my old tailings pond here from working up there. It'll be less work to get a settling pond ready. And then I can just dig all that out and dump it right in the high banker, and it'll go down this way and flow down there. I can dig that out. That'll be another nice little pond for it. A lot more area to cover before it hits the water. So it should have plenty of time to settle out. But it's important to look at the area before you start mining so that you don't screw yourself by dumping tailings over ground that you want to work. Not as important if you're just running buckets because you don't move as much, but you'll see I'll have a pretty decent sized hole here by the end of the day. I'll take a picture of before and after, kind of give you an idea of how much material I generally move in a day. All right, so after about a half hour of prep work, I think I'm good enough to get all set up. So I don't know if you remember what it looked like before, but I cleared out all the bigger rocks from there. As I dig down, there'll be more, but I'll just push them off over there. I was originally going to set my highbanker up going this way so I could utilize that old fine tailings pit, settling pond, dig it out was my plan. But after looking at it, my highbanker was going to be setting up too high. So I decided to come down this way. I dug a pit right there. I'd like it to be a little deeper, but as I run and the fine tailings go down there, I'll shovel those out and build up the walls of the pit, of the settling pond. That should be good enough. But it makes it a lot easier if you do a little planning before you start working. I set my highbanker up just on the deck there to get an idea of where it would be. So that's kind of where I'm going to set it up. What I'll do first, I'll dig this area first and dig it down so that my coarse tailings can build up right there. And then as I push back, the coarse tailings will push back. And then after I dig all this, if I decide I want to work up there, I can just move all those boulders down, continue to work. That's kind of what I did over there. All that's left to do is get the highbanker set up, fill up my water filter so I have water all day, and then get to work. All right, catch you back. All right, so she's looking pretty good. She's level. I'm running about an 8.5 degree pitch up here, about a 4.5 down there. Somewhere around there, somewhere around 9 and 5, and 8 and 4 is what I've found that works best with this material. You kind of have to adjust it depending on what you're running. And I'll check it throughout the day, check my tailings, make sure it's set up good, make any adjustments as I need. So now I just got to run my hoses and get going. All right, so I got my hoses all set up, pump running. One thing about this lay flat, you want to make sure you don't have any kinks in it. It's bad for the hose and it'll cause you to lose pressure. Eventually it'll pop your hose if you do it too much. Everything looks to be running pretty good. I might turn up the idle a little bit on the pump to get a little bit more washing action in there. Little fluid bed in there behind the flap. I don't run the clay claw very often up here. I do have it, but I leave it off. It makes it easier to run. And this stuff's, I mean, on the top right now, all you really see is sand, but it's real gravelly and kind of sandy. Not a lot of clay, so it doesn't really need that extra time at the top to break up. Works pretty good. All right, well, time to start running. All right, well, it's lunchtime, so I'm gonna look in the box, do a cleanup, and then eat lunch, and then get back at it for a couple hours. I probably got about 3 hours on the box, so let's take a look. See some gold up in there, tuck underneath the riffle. It's hard to see. Right there. Nice pieces. Gold all in here. So here's the hog moss. I can't really see any gold in it from up here, but we'll take it out and pan it separate. So here's what under the hog moss looks like. I don't know if it shows up well on the camera, but that's pretty much solid black sand back there. A lot of gold gets caught in there. Alright, well, got the moss in the pan. Let's go pan it out, see what it looks like. Looking pretty good so far. Nice piece. No, it's not quite a picker. Maybe. It's pretty, that might be a picker. Nice piece. All right, so not bad. I mean, look how fine that gold is up in there. And that's just from the hog moss. So that's not even the mats yet. All right, well, let's go clean the mats and see what they look like. All right, so this is gonna be difficult. I didn't bring a catch pan, so this is as low as I could get it without losing anything. A ton of black sand. Just gonna have to try to look for it as it goes down. I don't know if all that's showing up or not, but there's gold all in it. All right, that's not even half of it, but with this little pan, it's impossible to get it all to show, but there's some of it anyway. We'll see the rest when I get home and clean it all up. Looks good though. So as I was digging earlier, I found this cup. I thought it was just somebody's coffee cup that they left. Obviously it is somebody's coffee cup that they left, but I looked on the bottom and it says US 1967. So it's an old cup. It's over 50 years old. Who knows when it was left here or washed down here, but kind of cool. All right, I think I'm gonna call it a day. It's only been I only ran it for about an hour after lunch. I ran out of ground that I cleared, and it's kind of too late in the day to start clearing any of that over there. So I just started digging back here, up in there, there. So it's only about maybe an hour and a half on this run, but got a lot of cleaning up to do, so I'm just gonna end it here, but not a bad hole. All this right here are of course tailings from the highbanker, so that's all dug down. Probably 2 feet, maybe 3, 2.5, something like that. And from right there to about there, it's probably 5 feet, maybe 4. And then from here to there, probably another 4 or 5 feet. Not a bad hole for one guy. Digging for about 4 hours, 5 hours. Yeah. I don't think this run's gonna be as good for one I ran for half the time. For two, I didn't test any of that up there, so I don't know what kind of material or what kind of gold is in it. I don't normally do that, but running out of time, figured instead of wasting time stripping more ground away, I would just start digging whatever I could. Anyways, I'm gonna shut the pump off. We'll have a look in the box. See what we got. So this is what the box looks like. You can see some gold in it. I don't know if you can see all that from there, but there's a piece. So we'll get her all cleaned out. Take a look. Alright, so here's the hog moss. There's more fine gold down in here, but not bad. Alright, let's go get the rest of the mats cleaned up. Alright, so this is run number 2. I don't know if you can see it, but look at all that tiny gold up there. Gold Hog products. Some people don't like them, but man, if you set them up right, that stuff's super, super small. And I was running that thing pretty hard. Still caught all that. A ton of that super tiny. I don't even know what that is. Sub 100 mesh. I don't know. Some of it's floating. Alright, well, put this in my baggie and get it all cleaned up. Put the highbanker away. Head home. So one thing I always find funny about gold mining, dig this gigantic hole. Move all these big boulders out. Dig all this dirt. And that's the amount of cons. And then once I clean that up, what I'm after is even a smaller amount. It's crazy.